What's up, guys? Welcome back to Feast or Famine with the Youngs.
We are the Youngs.
How is everybody feeling after Thanksgiving? Fat and happy?
You know, we just ended Thanksgiving, but when this airs, it will be long past Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay. Well, my bad. How was everybody's Christmas? I don't know. Alex has
What
the schedule.
day is this?
What day is it? We don't even know what we're doing.
It could be 2024 right now.
This is the I don't know.
It very well
podcast.
could be January.
Yeah. Anyway, we have the most lovely guest today. Hi.
Hello.
This is Lauren.
Hello, everyone.
Lauren, tell these beautiful people who you are and what you do.
Yes. My name is Lauren. I own LZ Event Co., which is a full-service wedding planning and design company based here in St. Louis. We do other packages as well, like management, partial planning, but we specialize in full-service planning and design.
Awesome. When did you start your business?
Gosh, I started my business actually in 2020 in COVID.
Oh my gosh.
Which was
One heck of a time to start a business.
Right, exactly. I at the time I was laid off from my previous job and weddings.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Were you laid off because of COVID?
Yes.
Okay, and so you it wasn't like it was like January and you started it. Like we were in COVID.
It was because of COVID.
It was because of COVID.
Okay.
And I was like, I love weddings. I was in the industry, used to work for a planner. I one day wanted to start my business, but didn't think it would happen for like 5 to 10 years in the future. I was laid off from a hotel, so I just thought hotel was my path for a while. And so on a whim, one day I was just like, weddings are the only thing that people plan this far in advance. And at the time, we had no idea how long COVID would last. So it was just like, it's the one thing we're planning, like over a year. It's what we're used to. It's what I'm used to. So I gave it a whirl.
Yeah, and it stuck.
It thankfully stuck.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, I feel like if COVID especially was one of those times where people that didn't have a planner realized
they really need a
planner now because this is a lot.
Yeah, it was a strange time for like adapting to the industry for literally everyone involved.
Yeah.
And so it was also nice because I was in Iowa too, and I just moved back to St. Louis because of the pandemic, and it was a great way for me to be able to reintroduce myself into the industry on my own terms and not from the planner I used to work for, who I still love and adore.
Yeah.
But being able to like say like, hey, I'm back, and remake those connections too, which was helpful in many ways.
That's awesome. So are you from Iowa?
No, I'm from here in St. Louis. That just happened to be where my job took me after college.
Gotcha. Awesome. Okay.
We drove through Iowa once, and it was literally just corn and storms.
Yeah.
It was literally the whole way.
Not interesting at all. Sorry if you're from
I'm going
Iowa.
back there this weekend actually for a girls' weekend. So, why in Iowa? It's just family there, but I'm like not looking forward to that drive. I'm dreading that drive.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry if you're from Iowa.
I did learn that deer hunting is incredible in Iowa.
Well,
that is true.
I do know that. I've been hunting in Iowa before, and it's actually pretty legit.
I actually really enjoyed my time in Iowa. I was in Des Moines. Like Des Moines is a great city.
Yeah, I've been there.
Loved it, but I was ready to move back, and thankfully the pandemic, it just pushed me back a few months earlier than expecting, and here we are.
Nice. So we can cut this if we need to, but you just told me something really exciting.
Yeah.
That you quit your job.
I did. I quit my job, especially by the time this might be released. I quit my job.
Like your full-time job.
My full-time job, yeah. Well, I always joke for the past 2.5 years, I've had 2 full-time jobs.
I get that. That's how I was.
Yeah. I've had this business and then I've had my job as a corporate event planner at a hotel.
Quote, 9 to 5.
Yeah, my 8 to 5. And then I would go home and my 5 to 11 would be my business. So I'm very excited to take it full time. It's been a dream of mine. And I'm also really excited to have a normal life back. Not working 24/7.
Normal.
Yeah, right. Normal for those.
When you run a business, you're a little bit crazy, so there's no such
or
thing
like
as
the
normal.
wedding industry. My sense of normal, at least. I'm excited to have that back. So
I remember when I quit my corporate job, I said the same thing. I'm like, I have 2 full-time jobs right now. I have my corporate job, and then I have my wedding photography business because it was full-time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I am not going to know what to do with myself because I would just come home from work and immediately get on my laptop or immediately go to like a photo shoot or something like that. And I would be working so much. And so when I quit, I was like, the first like 2 to 3 weeks, I'm literally being a potato. Like I'm not doing anything. And I'm going to take full advantage of it. And that obviously didn't happen. I just like went full speed into my business.
Well, sort of. You used to go to work at like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And then I would leave at probably like 7:30.
Yeah.
But so it went from you waking me up to me waking you up.
Yeah. Yeah. But
that only lasts like 3 months because I got laid off like 3 months later.
Yeah, right.
and
then you're both sleeping in.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, all right, well, we're doing this.
Yeah,
Right.
we're doing this full time. Well, awesome. And you also semi-recently got married.
Yes, back in August.
Yeah.
I did.
Congrats.
Thank you.
And that's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. We've done one episode of A Bride's Perspective. Y'all ate it up. Y'all loved it.
It was a popular one.
Yeah. So Lauren had the awesome idea to do another bride's perspective, but also from a planner perspective, which I thought would be so intriguing.
Planner planning their wedding, but you didn't plan your own wedding technically.
Well, she did.
You
I
had
did.
a planner.
Yeah, I planned the whole thing entirely on my own, and then
I
I
didn't
just
have a
had a friend literally be a day of coordinator, which is like the only. It was funny because it's like the only time I've like ever I have really ever like been like, this is really what a day of coordinator is, but and normally we never do that type of stuff and don't fully believe in day of coordinators, but which is a whole different thing. But but that she was truly just a day of coordinator.
Because you do need someone to just like manage the day.
If I didn't have someone to literally run that day, and if I tried to do it all myself,
you wouldn't have enjoyed yourself.
Not at all. I wanted the same experience that like I strive to give my brides and grooms. So I
like they don't have to think about anything.
Literally,
they don't even know if something goes wrong because it's taken care of without them knowing about it.
Exactly. Like, and I was so thankful. It was. I mean, I not to toot like my own planning horn, but it was like the best decision I made was to hire another planner.
Yeah.
And to have them there on the day. So that's
awesome.
like
See, that changed this whole thing. Because when we were talking about this, I'm like, well, if you hired a planner, so that's like, but you didn't. Because I thought she was the planner, but she was just coordinator.
Nope, she was just coordinator.
Okay.
I kind of figured that you had planned it all.
Oh, yeah.
At least the majority. And then maybe some of like the last minute, like nitty gritties, like the coordinator did, but.
No, it's actually funny. And Brittany with Paris & Co events was my day of coordinator. And
love her.
She's one of, if not like my closest friend in the industry, especially on the planning side. She's wonderful. But I like still like, I did everything to the point where like that I would typically do that she would have done, like coordination wise of logistics of like, I still made my giant timeline, my giant production schedule. I sent everything to her and she was just like, oh, great. I literally can just show up today because you took care of it.
It makes
so, like,
it easy for her.
Oh, it really was. Like we met once and it really just turned into just happy hour at a bar and then because we just went over my schedule and then so I literally did everything. She just ran ship the day of.
So do you feel like that helped you in like feeling like some sort of like relief or like knowing that the day's gonna go smooth that you did that?
For me at least, yes.
Yeah.
It really did because I was able to like know exactly what's going on and when. I think that my friends and family really understood exactly what was happening, especially like my bridesmaids. They kind of understood my process just from stories in the past. So they had a kind of a good feeling of what I wanted and what I liked. And it made me relax the whole day, truly.
Nice. So let's start from like the very beginning.
Get engaged.
And you were already a wedding planner when you got engaged.
Yes.
How did that thought process go? And then how did that conversation go with your, at the time, fiance?
So actually, it's funny that you asked that because right before he proposed, we were in Forest Park and he had me sit down. I had a huge inkling that it was happening that day. I just knew. And we sat down and the biggest giveaway should be that he hired a photographer who I could see. And like it's a Saturday in Forest Park, a gorgeous like Saturday in the spring. So like my wedding brain's always going off like, who am I going to see here?
Yeah.
And then of course
you're in Forest Park, of course.
Yeah. And
you know
right by
people.
the Muni. And I see this photographer just like kind of by herself, like, just like a little bit far away. Did you know the
photographer?
I didn't know her actually. So
well, that's good.
So that helped.
Yeah.
But I just kept out of corner of my eye, just saw her inching closer and closer
And she has a
and
long
closer
lens on her
to
camera,
us.
and she's trying to be discreet.
Yeah,
You can't pull one over on a wedding planner.
You really can't. I knew the whole time. So we were sitting on the grass and he asked me, he was like, what is like, when you think of your wedding one day, like, what are some things that you think of? And he asked me that before he proposed, which was so sweet. So he knew, and it's actually funny because even like a year beforehand, he was just like, Lauren, I know one day that if we get married, you're going to want to spend the most money on flowers. I've just accepted it right now. Like he's known forever, but it was really sweet. So he asked me like some things and it's some details that like of course, like he roped me in with that sentence because, of course, like I started going off like different ideas, different things I want to do. Which
he's like, actually, can you just shut up? Will you marry me?
Yeah, but I mean, seriously, he was like, oh, okay, I probably should have asked a different question. Like she's been talking about this wedding for a while. Like it seems to be planned, which in reality,
so funny.
Obviously wasn't. But then he talked a bit more and of course proposed. There was a prom group across the way. They all cheered. It was very fun. But
that's awesome.
But yeah, so he very much went into it knowing, but what's funny is that being a wedding planner, everyone's like, oh, you already had like 13 Pinterest boards. And I was like, no, I started one from scratch. Like
that's
after
good.
I got engaged, we started completely fresh. And even I surprised myself a bit in the planning process of what I lead for versus what I originally thought I wanted.
So with it being a Saturday in Forest Park, how many bridal parties were around?
Weirdly enough, none. Maybe it was just later in the day. It was like 4:30, 5-ish.
So it's like cocktail hour time or
exactly like
time.
ceremony time. So we probably just missed the crowds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it made sense with the prom groups there. So yeah, no weddings that I had around us, thankfully. But I was just like, it's gorgeous out. Where is everyone? Like everyone should be taking advantage of this weather right now and their wedding photos. Like, of course, like my brain is the one thing that I think of in Forest Park.
So did you have an idea of like what you wanted as far as design?
I did, and that was one thing that surprised me a little bit. I think in like the years before, I was like, oh, very classic, green and white. And as I started dating Josh more and we got closer, I realized like I just fell in love with color, and especially as a planner, I'm like, I just want color everywhere. I want to utilize color. He really likes color. He loves like sunsetty tones, like oranges and yellows, and I really love that in the summer as well. And so I wanted to make sure that he felt like it was very much his wedding as well as mine and incorporate that in there too. So I was like, everyone jokes. I'm like, no, Josh really was like, I made sure he was a part of this process as much as he wanted to be. And he really did want to be involved. I'm like, I don't want it just to be like the wedding planner's wedding. I wanted it to be our wedding.
That's so sweet.
So so I was able to really do that and include him. But for design wise, I wanted really bright, summery, kind of citrusy, sunset colors, mixed in obviously with green. If you can't tell by my everything, it's my favorite color. So there was a lot of green involved, but yeah, it was really fun. So
that's awesome. Very cool. So when you guys started thinking about venues,
well, before we get to venues,
go ahead.
Let's talk about just vendors in general.
Okay.
Because you mentioned that like your main priority was going to be florals. Like you want to make sure you have a lot of flowers.
So what did you book first?
So how did the vendor booking order work?
What's so funny, I didn't even like I kind of went in a random order. I booked hair and makeup, I think, very first, and which is something that I don't think brides realize goes so fast nowadays.
Yeah.
Good ones.
Good ones, yeah. So I booked that very first right away. I used the artist edit here in St. Louis, specifically Taylor with the artist edit was like my main person. They're all wonderful human beings. I love them so much, and they made every single person in our bridal party look fabulous.
That's awesome.
And then weirdly enough, second was DJ. I don't know why, but I'm really good, close friends with the owner, TK DJ. So I just reached out. I was like, hey, Scott, here's our potential dates. Put it on hold and just kind of started that conversation.
Did Scott do it or did somebody on the team?
Someone else on the team came and did it. He doesn't really DJ, but he actually did come and surprise me though and said hi, which was nice. Sweet. So that was really sweet.
So you did have like a couple vendors in mind that you were like, I know exactly who I want.
Yeah. So there was a few vendors I just knew I wanted to use and who were just good friends as well from the industry. But when it came to florals, that one was really hard for me because I'm friends with so many great florists and who I love, but the style that I personally really wanted and I was drawn to was Affair to Remember. And I just love their style. It felt very much like what I wanted, like very gardeny, but still kind of modern, bright. And so I approached them and it worked out really well. And that's exactly who we used for floral.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then when it came down to like venue, photo, video,
like the traditional first
the traditional first ones that you typically book.
The traditional first ones you typically book, I think were the hardest for me to like find at first. Like truly, because at the end of the day, even though I'm a wedding planner, we still had a budget.
Of course.
First and foremost. It was sticking with that budget as well as just finding a venue that felt like it fit us. And no hate to any St. Louis venues out there. There are some really fun ones, but none of them for sure really felt like there wasn't one that like really stuck out to me to be like,
like this is 100% it.
Yeah, none of them did to me. But we knew we wanted St. Louis. And so we were looking, we tried a few that we thought were in, and then we're just like, it just felt too small, a little bit like we just didn't like the area. And I did a wedding at the History Museum 2 years ago, and I loved it. It was very fun. It was very easy. It was different. Like I love the art museum. I have 3 there next year, budget wise. So we probably couldn't do art museum. So I was like, I know I want Forest Park. Let's look at the History Museum. And we went and toured it, and we fell in love. So
that's great.
Yeah, it worked out really well. When it came to photo video, video I knew a little bit more. We used First Twin Films, I just love her style. She's so fun, great friend. And then we used Tristan Singleton for photography, who also just very sweet, just very comfortable. And so that's how we found people, but it still took us a while to find those people. Like I was doing, honestly, like way more research on your traditional vendors than I was for like the detail vendors, because I like my brain thinks more detail wise than it does traditional wise. So I'm like, I know exactly who I want to hire for my details.
Yeah.
Right. The people you know for sure, you're like, I'm just going to go ahead and knock those off the list.
Absolutely.
Spend more time figuring out the rest.
Absolutely. So yeah, it took us a little bit longer to secure those like traditional vendors, like we said, but once we did, everything really just fell into place.
So what was it like when you were thinking about like photo and video, what was it like when you're trying to find ones that you think are going to be a good fit for your style, but like from a planner's perspective, what were you looking for? From a planner and I guess and a bride's perspective, like what were you looking for specifically within those vendors? Like what attributes?
Absolutely. That's a really great question. As both a planner and a bride, I wanted someone very personable, very friendly, someone who can make us feel very comfortable and normal, nothing too super posed per se. We didn't want like something that was like very much, all right, everyone now stand here. Like obviously you have like your portraits that you do that for, but I really wanted to be like more in the moment photos. And then I also really wanted it for the most part, like very true to color. I think that's that's the thing right now that a lot of us are leaning towards, and something that I really love photographers doing. You guys do a great job at it, is photographing what feels the moment. It's not too light, it's not too dark or red or whatever.
It looks exactly how it did.
Yes, exactly. And that was very important to me. I wanted it to just look exactly how it did. Like I didn't want something insanely edited. I wanted it just to be true to our day and so I can remember it exactly, that way. So those were the biggest things I was looking for when it came to a photo and video team, or at least especially a photo team, was just to make sure to find someone that I can really just feel like I could work with, laugh with. Another thing that I also just looked for that it was important to me was a photographer that included engagement photos in their package. To have that time beforehand to be able to work with them on it. Because even as a planner, I found nowadays that there's still photographers out there that don't include it, and it's like an additional add-on. So
I think, this might be a hot take, but I think that's, if people are still doing that, it's stupid.
I agree.
You should. We talked about this in a past podcast.
Yeah.
You're going to spend the entire day with those people. Yeah. Why is the first time you're going to be photographing them going to be on the wedding day? It shouldn't be.
100%. And for me too, I want my couples to feel as comfortable with their photographer and good in front of the camera.
Yeah.
As like much as like the photographer wants to be comfortable photographing them. So like it's very important to me, like especially as a planner relationship, it's like, okay, no, you guys need to do an engagement session with your photographer. Make sure that you negotiate that if it's not in there already. And let me know how I can help negotiate it, because it's like it was those moments that were like really important to me. And then that way too, like when we did our engagement session, we stuck with Forest Park too, just because again, it's my favorite place in all St. Louis. So and I also wanted to be there so then we could think of some ideas for the wedding day itself and locations and things that we liked and disliked. So it really helped.
So for you specifically, when you were going to hire these vendors, were you wanting to make sure that you hired people that you had previously worked with, or was that not really a component for you?
It wasn't a huge factor for me. It was preferred for sure.
Yeah,
just because
you know the process.
I knew their process. I knew how they worked. I liked how they worked as well.
Yeah.
both Tristan and it's funny, Tristan and Kristen.
Yeah.
Both of them, I only worked with them in a styled shoot capacity before, but I just absolutely loved what we did together.
But that's still
it's still working together though. Yeah,
absolutely.
So I felt very comfortable with all of them too. Like and I think it was almost nicer hiring them from that styled shoot capacity because it wasn't so like we have to be on, we have to be professional. We were pretty laid back. We could really get to know each other as people. It was really fun in that sense. So I really preferred it for the most part. And truly, if I think about it, I don't think there really was anyone I haven't worked with before in some capacity that we ended up using on our day, which was really awesome.
That's great. It probably made you feel more comfortable.
It did. Yeah. I just knew I could completely trust every single one of them to put what I was envisioning together to life and to really just take the day as is and actually give me the experience that we all strive to give to our couples. And I really think that was important to my vendor team, which was really kind and sweet to me as well.
Yeah. So did you sit down with like Tristan and Kristen, go over timeline and stuff?
Oh yeah. We still did the normal process.
What was that like?
Oh, it was fun. I also loved that they still kept it like a planner bride process. We still had to go over the timeline. We still had to like do the sit down and calls and make sure that they understood how the day was flowing. They knew what types of shots and things we wanted and didn't want. We still had every type of planner meeting that a normal couple would have, which was, I really liked because it still gave me that full true bride experience. Yeah. Like of planning my wedding, of them sitting down and going to questions. However, from my perspective, at least, it still felt like work.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, like, was there any moment during like those times specifically where you're like, wait, am I the bride? Or like, am I just a plant? Like, was there any like moments where it felt completely disconnected?
I honestly, throughout the entire planning process, but especially on the wedding day and when trying on dresses, total imposter syndrome. Yeah. Total imposter syndrome for me. Like, it was like,
I could see that.
Yeah. I was like, I should be like behind the curtain. I should be, not getting ready, not getting my hair, makeup done, to the point that actually on the wedding day itself, when my bridesmaids all forced me to eat like a sandwich, I was like, I need to eat it in this bedroom with the vendor team only, away from everyone. And I just needed a moment to sit with the vendors and feel like, for me, it was a sense of normalcy on the day itself. So it was just me and the photo video team and Brittany. We were all just hanging out, chatting, talking shop, and it was like, oh, this is the wedding days I love. And it calmed me down. It truly did. Like, it was like, okay, like no one else is asking me questions. It doesn't feel like so crazy. And so I really was like, I need a moment with my vendor
It's
team.
like a polar opposite of normal people.
Literally.
I know.
They almost never go to weddings, whereas we're at 20, 30, 40 weddings a year.
Yeah.
So you wanted to, obviously, being the bride is more uncomfortable for you than just being with the vendors.
Completely. It was such a different experience. It felt so odd. It felt so odd just being in a room and so amazing with all of our friends and family. I loved it. But at the same time, I was just like, this is weird, to the point where like Josh and I did a thank you toast, and I joked and I was like, thank you all so much for coming to my styled shoot, supporting my business. And I was like, you guys, this is the best event we've ever put on, as a joke.
Gosh, that's so funny.
We kept calling it a business expense, throughout the whole planning process.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. Mm-hmm. I could totally see that. I feel like I would be the same way.
100%.
And I just wouldn't be able to relax. I'm the type of person, when people are constantly asking me, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not okay. Stop asking me.
Mm-hmm. It was okay before you started asking me.
I was fine before you started pestering me about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a logistical person. And on wedding days, that's, well, thanks. On wedding days, it's kind of especially when it gets to reception time. And I'm trying to navigate with the DJ or the MC and where speeches are going to happen, or cameras and lightings. If it was my wedding, or if we were doing a vow renewal, we had talked about potentially doing next year.
Love that idea.
We'd be worried about
I'd be sitting there,
logistics.
even in the reception, just looking at where the cameras are placed and where the lights are at. I'm like, is this going to look good?
We would probably be like,
hey, you should probably move that, because
are the recorders recording?
Yeah,
is everything on?
Truly, it was to a point where I was like, okay, I need to focus myself back in on this moment.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, when we tell our clients, I feel like you guys tell them this all the time, oh, the day goes by so fast. I was always saying it to people, but did not truly understand what that feeling was or what that meant until I experienced it for myself.
Yeah.
That day flew by. Like it was over before I knew it.
Did you catch yourself having those moments where like you kind of checked out from like
Being a planner?
being the planner or being a bride and being like looking at the logistics, like watching the photographer or watching the videographer or like seeing what everybody was doing, watching Brittany, like
the one time that I really did that was during family photos because I was just getting stressed with my own family and being like, come on guys, like we gotta go, we gotta move like the time and all these things. That I think was the time I was most stressed, but and having that logistic brain. But like for the room flip, for example, because we had, sorry to my vendors yet again, but I did make them do a room flip, which rude of me as a planner, but
it's okay.
We've all been there. We all have been there. But they didn't let me see that room flip at all. We did like a true that
was probably good.
It was not only so good, but like that was a moment, like they took us outside. We were doing sunset photos at the time, so I couldn't even go and check on it if I wanted to.
And that was probably by design.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it really like that was like the coolest moment for me. Like where I was like, okay, this is how I feel as a bride and a planner, seeing it come to life. Yeah. So, but yeah, there were times where I was just like, I need to like turn it off. Yeah. Like even family photos was the worst. Josh was leading to me. He was like, Lauren, calm down. Like, it's okay. We're here. Yeah. We're fine. And I was like, okay, you're right. We're good. So.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. So when you were, when it was coming down to like, let's talk venue specific. So like when you were picking the venue, cause you mentioned that you didn't know like really
there wasn't one
what
that you were like
wanted.
100%.
Yeah.
What was like the main priorities for you guys? Like what were the main things that you're like, it must have A, B, and C?
Absolutely. The first one that was a main priority was just size. Yeah. Just making sure that it fit our people comfortably. We invited 190 and did a 150. It was a really great number wise, but we just wanted to make sure we were comfortable in the space. The second one for us, for me at least, was being able to have multiple catering options. It wasn't a venue with just like you have to
like
use
a list of 3 people.
Yeah, like a list of 3 people, or like even if it was just a list of 3 people, one that, you know, had the different options for what we could do. Yeah. I knew I wanted food stations, but there's some venues in town that like you have to use their on-site caterer. You have to use a specific company that might be like the most expensive company in town. And I knew exactly the caterer I wanted to use, and thankfully they are a preferred vendor. Oh my gosh.
Vendor at the venue.
Vendor at the venue. I was like, what am I trying to say here? So it worked out, but that was a huge thing for me too, was to make sure that we could do the catering that we wanted and that fit our budget, and we didn't feel like we had to put a ton of money. Obviously catering is the most expensive thing that you're going to pay for at the wedding. Yeah. But I still wanted it to be good food at a cost-effective price, which is exactly what we got. So
yeah, nice. Who did you end up going with for catering?
We went with Russo's. And
Ooh, yeah. They're good.
They're
good and consistent.
They're consistent.
They are good. They're consistent. Their food is delicious. It's all like family recipes, like plug to Russo's. And like the package, we got lucky because they raised their prices like right after we signed, but their package was like, it for us was insane. We got 4-hour bar, 3 pass stops. We did food stations, 3 stations, and wedding cake all included in our package. And yeah, it was awesome.
How was picking the food? Like, did you have, I'm sure that you've had Russo's a billion times, being a planner, but like, were there things that you were like, I absolutely need to have this for my dinner?
Yes.
What was that?
I really wanted a taco bar as one of the food stations.
That's like non-traditional.
Was it
I
like,
love that.
I'm at weddings all the time. I know what wedding food. You
That's
get your
what we would
traditional
do.
wedding, like chicken piccatas usually.
Alex's
or
ass would
whatever.
be like, you would be like, I want past sushi.
Yes.
Literally,
like you would be like, I want sushi.
Sushi rolls on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cocktail hour.
Oh, that sounds amazing. We did a pasta station. We did a taco station. We did like a traditional kind of carving station with like mashed potatoes and stuff.
Yeah.
So like all amazing food. Everyone loved it. It was also great because we were able to like cater to everyone's different preferences. Yeah. Truly, like people could easily just go and eat at the carving station if that's all they wanted.
I love weddings that have stations.
And did it stay open during dancing too?
Unfortunately, it didn't. We did do a late night snack. I did add that on. I didn't even see it. I honestly asked at the end of the night, did they even set that out? But I was so full. I almost forgot to eat cake. Thankfully, I got some, but yeah, they did have late night snack. It didn't stay open, but that was okay. I think everyone was honestly so full from all of it because they, like you said, they're consistent. They know actually how to work with numbers and things. So everyone was eating well that night. That's awesome. For sure.
I would say Russo's is definitely on our top. Like, it's one of our faves.
Oh my
like,
God.
they're just delicious.
They
and
are.
we always know that we're gonna get a good meal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm. And that was the other thing too. Like, I mean, I do this for any of my weddings, but especially my own. It's like planners or vendors. You need to sit and eat. You need to go get food. All these things.
Did
So.
you do a tasting?
They do a group tasting actually.
Okay.
They do 4 a year, and it's like just kind of like random things off their menu.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we went to one of their group tastings. We didn't get to try everything we ended up doing. Like, they obviously didn't do a taco bar. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't try everything, but I'm like, I don't need to try a taco bar. Like,
It's tacos.
it's tacos. Just give me, like, just make sure there's like cheese and salsa and I'm happy girl. So like, yeah, so we were able to do that. But
Who did the wedding that we did recently that had the 3 stations? They had like an Asian and like a Italian station and
What venue was it?
Wild Carrot. What caterer was that?
It was.
Because they did stations and it was really good.
It was
and it
the
was
same.
unique.
It's the social affair.
yes,
Yes.
I think-
Yes.
they do incredible stations. I've done
Yeah.
a few events with them for stations before, and it's always custom every time. It's
Yeah.
so good.
They had these little mini chicken waffle. Like,
Yes.
oh my God.
They honestly, social affair I think has been like the best vendor food I've ever had when it comes
Yeah.
to like vendor. Like, my first wedding I did at the Dogwood, which is the venue they own. They did
I love the Dogwood.
they did a 4-course meal for the guests, and then they just did a little bit less of a scaled down version of that 4-course meal for the vendors. Like, we got basically every single thing that they did, except for maybe instead of a beef Wellington, it was just like the steak, which was
Yeah.
still cooked to perfection. Like, it was, we were all like, I can't eat another meal like right
They
now. We
treat
were
their vendors very
stuffed.
well.
They're one of my
They
top,
do.
but my favorite is definitely the Ritz meal we had.
The Ritz.
But the
Oh, I
couple
eat
was
it. I
also
love the Ritz
foodies,
food.
so they had
Yeah.
like a watermelon salad. That it
Oh
was,
my God.
I
I dream
That's-
about it.
We'll have to convince Hallie and Tyler to get that salad for their
Yes.
wedding.
Yes.
It was also like probably one of the most beautiful platings I've ever seen. Like, it was like this iceberg lettuce of like this one, like, I don't know what you call it, like this just one chunk of iceberg lettuce
on
standing
top
up.
of
And
a slice of watermelon.
yeah, the slice of watermelon was like on the bottom, and then there was like balsamic and feta. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
It was
they're
so good.
also some of the best wedding food. Anytime I get to go to the Ritz, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a good day. So
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, let's talk about like bridesmaids dresses, your dress.
Yeah.
Like, how did you, seeing all kinds of weddings and seeing those paired in photos and things like that, what were the things that like you were like, I love this look, I don't like this look? Like, what was that?
That was one thing that I knew, like, going, like, one of the things when like my husband asked me like about the proposal, like, what do you think of the wedding? I'm like, all the girls need to have black dresses. Like, I knew immediately. Everyone thought I was going to pick green. It's my signature color, but I really wanted black dresses. I wanted them to be able to pick like their style of the same fabric, just so they could be like what's most comfortable.
But the same color.
Yeah, but the same color, same fabric, different styles. We went with Birdie Gray because they're also very affordable, and I just like their styles.
Yeah, they're great.
But I did that because, one, with black dresses, they could easily rewear a black dress if they pick the right one. Because it doesn't always look like a bridesmaid's dress.
Right, they can wear it again.
They could easily wear it again. And I wanted to be able to do that. I'm like, if they're going to spend money on a dress for me, like, I want them to be able to ensure that they could wear it again if they chose to, or if they ever had an event they
And
needed
that's
it for.
probably the planner and you thinking
That literally was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, we're also like, our wedding was August 5th. We thankfully didn't have as hot of a day as we thought we were, but black doesn't show sweat as well,
Yep.
as
Yeah.
bad as like other colors might.
That's really good perspective for
Like green would have probably.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone you just would have seen sweat all over.
That's
for
really
them.
good perspective for future brides. Like, when you're thinking about like the types of dresses you want your bridesmaids to be in, like, I mean, not saying that you have to think about them. It's obviously like your day, but like considering the fact that they're going to drop a couple $100s on a dress, like, let's
Right.
make sure we can wear them
Well,
again.
that goes the same with like suits too, and suits and tuxes. Like
Yeah, they're not renting
gray
it.
suits and gray tuxes are the worst when it comes to sweat.
Yeah.
They are.
So if you have a summer wedding, especially here in St. Louis,
Yeah.
maybe pick something that's not great.
I also like, I have brides ask me all the time. They're like, do you like prefer photographing gray, blue, black? I'm like, blue or black. Gray sometimes it turns out purple. Like, it looks weird.
catches color.
It catches light
It catches
differently.
light. So if like we're on some grass, it's gonna look like a really dingy green.
Yeah.
Like, it's gray is a weird.
It is. I knew I wanted black tuxes for the guys and black dresses for the girls. Very classic. I also really wanted super colorful flowers, so
Yeah,
that
so
I
then it
wanted
would pop off the
to
black.
pop off the black as well. And the other reason I chose black. So fun fact with my color of being green, I'm a triplet of 3 girls. So
You're a triplet?
Shut up.
I
Alex
am.
is
I'm
a
a triplet.
triplet.
Shut up. No, you're not.
I
Oh
swear
my
I'm a triplet.
God, guys.
Oh my gosh, I found another triplet friend.
Have I met another,
I don't think
like,
so.
Especially in the
adults,
industry.
Adults.
Oh my God, shut
Like-
the F up.
Like our age.
Okay, all right, I sorry. All right. What's the mix?
Pause the
It's
podcast.
two boys and a girl.
2 boys and a girl. Okay.
Are you guys identical?
No, we're
Okay.
fraternal.
Okay,
We look
same.
really, but we're fraternal. And then even crazier fact, just side note, my husband's a twin of 2 boys.
That's amazing.
That's-
Wait,
So we're
it's-
screwed.
So it's all girls for you?
All girls for us.
Okay.
So, but with that, and my parents, I'm guessing your parents did it too. Actually, it's funny. I can show you guys. We just got a triple tattoo. It's my first tattoo. And our colors and our birth order. So
Oh,
my
that's
sister
great.
Annie is
So
blue,
you're middle?
Julia's pink, and I'm green, the
Oh, okay.
third. And so I wanted to honor that, and like, you know how like it's like something old, something new, borrowed blue. So I'm like, I need my something blue, pink, and green. So as a part of my maid of honor gift to them, since they were my 2 maids of honor, I wore green shoes. I knew I wanted green shoes, and I bought them the same matching shoes in their colors. So
Oh,
Annie
that's
had blue,
cute.
Julie had pink, and that's another reason I really wanted black dresses. I was like,
So it wouldn't clash.
it wouldn't clash. So, and I wanted them to be able to stand out. And then the rest of my girls just wore nude heels. So I really
That's
wanted
so cute.
just that little subtle moment. And that was a huge factor for me when picking the bridesmaid dresses. And that's why I picked black. Cause like my parents were like, really? You didn't go with green? Like, we just don't get it. We're confused. I'm like, you'll see. I promise. You'll understand come wedding day why I picked black. So.
Yeah, see, my mind's blown. I don't think I've literally ever met another
I'm,
set of triplets.
my mind's blown
at
too.
our age.
I
Because at our age, it's so rare because it
Yeah.
was so hard to do back then.
Yeah.
I always tell Alex, I'm like, you should really introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Alex Young and I'm a triplet, because it's always like everybody freaks out about it.
Well, it's one of the, and you might understand this.
Yup.
You grew up that way. It's never been something that's been a big deal to you.
Right.
So you never say it. So then when somebody's like, well, tell me something unique about you, I'm like, oh, I got it. Perfect. It's
Literally,
my go-to.
it's my go-to fun fact, especially as an adult. I know if you all did the same, but when we all went to college, we made it as difficult as possible on our parents and all went to different schools.
Oh, gosh.
Which,
Yeah, we did too.
Yeah, I mean,
except
so-
my brother went away to our first year, and I went somewhere else, and we ended up in the same place for the next couple
nice.
years.
So we didn't even do that. We just split, but I won a huge blessing because I think we all were able to become our own individual person finally,
Yeah.
which was great. But like, especially in college, I was like, oh, no one knows me here. Like, I can
Yeah.
actually use this as my fun fact now. But
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I found another triplet. That's awesome.
That's crazy. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Anyway,
anyway,
Back to weddings.
so I know that like we talked a little about floral. You already knew like what vendor you wanted to go with, but what were like the attributes of like the process that you were like, I need a vendor that can, for floral specifically, that meet these requirements?
Oh, yeah. So a few huge factors. One, I didn't want to DIY anything for my wedding.
Okay,
I was like, I don't want to touch. I don't want to create anything. Doing the welcome bags are the only things we like literally like DIY'd, and that was like it for me. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do anything else. I really just wanted to be able to relax, enjoy the day, not have to worry about a thing. So with that in mind, I wanted a florist who is like specializes in full service and floral aspect that will come set up. They will stay for the room flip. They will do the delivery. They'll come back to tear down. I wanted to know that they had a good inventory when it came to like candles and things, because I didn't want to have to buy those myself online from like Amazon or IKEA or something. I just wanted them to bring them and take them back. I did not
Yeah.
want to have
Yeah.
to drive home or come like wake up the next morning with like 50
Boxes of
boxes,
candles.
yeah, candles in my car. So that was a huge factor for me. It was like finding someone that I knew had a good inventory I liked. I happen to just know that I really liked Fair to Remember's inventory, so
because
it
you've
just
seen it before.
because I've seen
Yeah.
it before. I've loved their studio. I've been there multiple times, so it helped me with that process. But that was actually one of the biggest factors, was someone who specializes in that full service, who would take care
Yeah.
of all of those things.
From a design side, as a bride, what was that process like when you were sitting down with an affair to remember and kind of going through like your vision for the florals?
It was really fun. So again, it's my design process is a little different as a bride, being a planner, but I still made my own. Like if I treated myself like I would have treated one of my full service planning clients, I still made my like 50-page design board. One, it was just fun for me because like obviously I know it's so bad. That's like we get
Are they
detailed.
always 50 pages or just
Not
yours with 50
always.
pages?
Wait, are you being legit? Was it actually 50 pages?
Mine was, yeah. But
Can you send it to me?
yes, I will show it to you.
I want to read that.
Yeah, no, it's like, it's mostly like a PowerPoint. It's not like full, depending on the client, it gets like really descriptive, and sometimes it's 50, sometimes it's less, but like
I love that.
But like, I mean, each page, like, it's like just like one page just on table numbers type of thing. Like we get detailed, deep. Yeah. So obviously it was fun for me to do that. And I did my own much faster than I would have probably someone else's, but I still made that for me. So then that way, instead of just like normally what I probably would have done if I was, just a normal bride and not me, just would have gone through a Pinterest board. Whereas that time we could literally we did the first one on Zoom, pull up on Zoom, share the screen, and be able to like go through page by page, like what my visions were.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
what, like, for brides getting married, like next year and next couple years, if wherever we're at on posting this podcast, apparently, because I don't know.
2024, 2025.
Yeah, whatever that
It could be
is.
December.
Could be.
So what, like, advice would you give brides when they're going through, like, when they're starting at the beginning of the process, even if it's like figuring out budget? We didn't really talk about budget, but we can talk about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, what advice would you give them when you're trying to like figure out the very beginning steps?
The first thing I always like to tell my clients or inquiries if they're asking me this question is figure out your guest count, because that's going to determine so many factors. It's going to determine where you can have your wedding, because let's say you want a really like big wedding, but if you want like a 300-person wedding, but your dream venue is the Dogwood, well, you can't.
That's not gonna work.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Like you have to know your venue and like what can work with your guest count. The other thing is guest count affects budget a lot. Is that, like let's say your budget is $50,000. Well, how you spend $50,000 for 100 people versus 200 people is going to be very different. So it's things like that. So it's figuring that guest count out, I think, is a really big important first step for anyone, because that's how you're going to factor in your budget. The thing I like to then tell them is when we're making a budget, or if they're making a budget, is to prioritize what's most important to them on like maybe a scale from 1 to 10. 1 being most important, 10 being least important, vice versa, however they want to think of it that way. But like if music is really important to them, they're going to want to put more on a budget towards a good band or a good DJ than they would for maybe stationery, if that's not as important. If flowers are really important, well, we obviously want to put more in the budget for flowers than we would for other items. So it's things like that they need to think about, and really, like, when they envision their wedding day, prioritize, because at the end of the day, guest count and budget is going to really affect how all that like fits in. It's like a puzzle piece, like that you're like completely building this puzzle until like the final days, truly, like of how it's all going to fit together, and having to figure it out. And you can't do that unless you know about a guesstimate of how many guests you're going to have.
So when you and Josh right?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. It's like, oh,
you got it.
So when you and Josh sat down to talk about budget, I'm sure that like because you're in the industry, because you're a planner, you probably had already some sort of idea, because you see the contracts and stuff with your clients, with the other vendors. Whereas we don't see that. Like we
know what they spend on us.
Like we talked about possibly doing a 10-year vow renewal in 2024. Aww. We're not doing it. But we were going to do it, so much as the fact of like we already had hired high-class DJs.
Love them.
And then we decided that we decided to go to Engage, and then we were like, there goes our budget. So that's not going to happen. So we had to cancel with
we'll celebrate your 10-year anniversary at Engage. Don't worry.
So anyway, we're not doing it. But we were like, we don't even know. When we were in the process, we were like, we need to figure out a budget. And because
we couldn't figure out a budget.
The reason why we want to do a vow renewal is because we were not in the industry when we got married. And we made a lot of mistakes. Our wedding, I love the man that I married on the day, but the day itself is horrific.
Oh
gosh. Not like that anything went wrong. Everything went fine, but like the way that it looked, the way that it, like, we didn't do anything that we would have done now. We didn't hire a professional photographer.
I mean, we stretched a shoestring budget, but we could have made better decisions.
I think that we were just talking about this with your mom. I think that we did our entire wedding for like $11,000.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
truly.
not,
I mean, it was
though.
also
It's not though.
it was
I mean,
also 10 years ago.
It was also 10 years ago,
Yeah.
so everything was so different back then.
It was so different. Like, we got married in a church, and I would not do that now. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Like, we're Christians. We like love the Lord. That's great. But like, I felt like
we were like in that mindset of we have to get married in a church.
Right.
And we are definitely not there anymore.
No.
We didn't hire a professional photographer. We didn't hire a videographer at all.
And I was
Biggest
in
mistake.
the videography world already, just
Yeah.
not weddings. And I had somebody that I could have asked to just be there.
But you don't think of those things like when you don't know it or
Yeah,
like think
exactly.
about it.
And we 10 years ago was the era of burlap and baby's breath.
Mason jars
let's
and
just,
burlap.
Let's
We had
just
both of
leave
those
it there.
things. And mason jars,
Actually,
I
we did
think.
not
No.
have burlap anywhere.
Did you have mason jars and baby's breath?
We had baby's breath, but not.
We had baby's breath, but
Which is making a comeback,
It
but
is
in a
making a
modern
comeback.
way. It's not
Yeah, it's
rustic
better now.
anymore. It's much better now.
Ours was jank. So anyway, we were like, I know somewhat that at least for like who we would want to hire for photo and video would be probably 3 times the price of what we paid on our overall wedding.
Oh, 100%.
So,
because
like,
we're in the industry, so I'm like, I don't want to really.
We at least know that like our photo video is probably going to be at least $30,000.
Oh, yeah.
So like, then we were like, well, freaking A. Like, we need
It's
to
like-
figure out
it's
how
like,
we
I
are
can't
going to
really
do.
afford that.
Right.
So like when you and Josh were sitting down to figure out budget, and like you can be as like you don't have to go into like too much detail, but what did that look like for you? And like
Yeah.
from a bride and a planner's perspective, was it like a little bit overwhelming, or was it good knowing kind of what you're getting yourself into?
So I think I knew exactly what I wanted when I was getting myself into more than he did. And it was really educating him.
Yeah.
It was a huge part of the process. And his sister got married a few years beforehand, and they had a really nice wedding. It was lovely, but their wedding was probably about maybe a half to 2/3 of the budget that ours ended up being. And I remember telling him, because at first he was like, oh gosh, sorry, hungry. But I remember telling him that with the wedding, that when I came to mine, I had a mindset, a little bit of, I need it to still look like my brand. And
Yeah.
look like the wedding that I am trying to cater to my clientele, because
That's not even something that I would have even thought about.
that was a huge,
But that makes total sense.
huge thing to me, because for me, I was like, why the heck would any bride want to book me if I did some like $15,000 wedding and like some random venue,
Right.
And like, and I'm trying to do something
Completely different. For them.
completely different, way more high end. Now, obviously, my wedding was not $100,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
I have some clients who hit those budgets, but it was one of those moments like I had to fit that, and I had to fit that bill, because they are hiring me for my design aesthetic. They're hiring me for what I can do. So I need to prove that with my own wedding.
We've talked about, like, this is a huge topic in and of itself, but we've talked a lot about that, about like kind of meeting your clients where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Where they're at.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
we've like, even this is total opinion based, but like this is just how we kind of see things. Like even down to like the type of car you drive. Like
100%.
you're showing up at a client's house maybe.
You're not showing up in a broke down
Toyota,
Yeah.
or in a really nice, like, I don't know, like a BMW, or
Yeah.
like, something like that.
I completely agree with you. And
Yeah.
it was important to me in that aspect, because one, I mean, it was also showing my family and friends what I could do. I wanted them to also understand what I did for a living and believe in me a bit more, that I can make that and make it come to life. So that was a huge part of it. But again, a lot of it was that marketing aspect to my clients. I needed them to know that I could do this for myself. I can do it for them too, and with a budget in mind. Now, obviously, being in the industry, we did get some help. We have some great vendor friends. They gave us a little bit of perks, which, not everyone gets. But I mean, I still paid full price for so many things, though.
Of course.
And like for something like, sorry, Josh, but I don't think you understood how much the linens actually cost. I just put my card down and never told him. But like, because I was like, I want upgraded linens.
I know linens are not cheap, but
Yeah.
they make a huge difference.
They made, I mean, they made the biggest difference, and he
Yeah.
loved the linen. So
That's
you're
good.
welcome. But it was also one of those, like, because we did overlays on all of the tables,
Yeah.
which is not a cheap thing to do, but it was important to me. So it was things like that, like when we were budgeting, I need this to look like something that my clients would want me to do. Like, that's why we hired Lauren, is because she can make these really pretty things happen.
Yeah.
Like she did
Exactly.
her own wedding was gorgeous. And that was kind of my mindset going into creating the budget.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's, I never even would have thought that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
crazy.
definitely, it was definitely a business owner's mindset in creating
Yeah.
the budget for sure versus a bride's perspective. But that's really how I thought through it when we
Yeah.
went through it all.
That makes sense.
Now, when you now that you've done your own wedding and you've planned your own wedding, did any of the process cause you to change your process with your clients?
That's a good idea. That's a good
That's
question.
such a good question. Trying to think like more specifically if anything truly did. It was a little easier for me to plan my own wedding, honestly, because I wasn't the middleman between client and vendor. I just was able to go, I was both the client and the planner, so I was able to
Yeah.
go straight to the vendor. So it made it a little bit different in that sense. In all honesty, no. Like, I don't think my wedding per se changed anything with how I did do things with clients versus other weddings, which, you know, we can talk forever on and why
Yeah.
we change things based off wedding experiences. But there are like little things here and there that I typically do for my own clients that I forgot to do for myself. And I was like, dang it, like, I can't believe I missed that. Like, it's my own wedding. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's things like that I realized, but nothing that comes to mind per se.
I mean, that's good for you.
Yeah.
That says a lot about you.
Why,
That's
thank
great.
you.
So what are some of those things actually that you like maybe missed that you wouldn't miss for the couple, but for anybody listening that they might also potentially miss?
Or anything that you might
Or
have
anything
changed.
that you might have changed
Yeah.
on your day?
Few things I would, there's like a lot, I wouldn't change much about my day. There's a few things that definitely happened. Like during our ceremony, my officiant's like, oh, that'd be fun to do like one of those like social media moments where like they get the camera out and everyone could take their picture. And like,
Yeah, we did that.
yeah, don't worry, I did too in the
think
year
we did that.
2023.
We did that before it was a thing, though.
I know.
It was
But don't worry,
2014.
it still happens in the year 2023. So we
I
did
was
it.
so like adamant. Even back then, I was so adamant of like, I do not want to see a single cell phone when I'm
So
walking
we
down
did
the
it
aisle.
as a,
thought-
like, take a selfie and now put your phone away while it's in
We
your hand.
thought
Yeah.
honestly more people would understand what's going. No one had a clue. They're like, "What the frick is happening right now?" And then Josh and I were there, like, and we were like, "What the hell are we doing right now?" Like, we literally were like,
Like
"Oh
a
my
little
god."
like awkward moment.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
so awkward. But
Okay.
but again, it was cute because we still made it fun, like for us. But
Yeah.
would never do that again. Don't recommend that. If people whip out their phones, they just whip out their phones and they take a picture. Like,
Yeah.
like you had to deal with it. The other thing too, I think I would have given more specific timing for the DJ for certain songs, like the specialty dances. We also we did the horror. I'm Jewish, so
Yeah.
when the first one, the horror he played was 7 minutes long, but he didn't cut it, so it just went for
That's
7 minutes.
long. That's long.
That's a long.
We've
I mean,
done
it's
Jewish
usually
weddings.
long, but that's
We
a long
weren't in the
time.
chairs the whole time. Thankfully, I actually like.
That's
fell
a
off
long
the-
7 minutes
Yeah.
being in the chair roll.
I was thankfully we were not in the chairs the whole time, but like
Okay.
we were still dancing in a circle. My aunt
Yeah.
from Israel was there, so like she was like kind of teaching us. But even she was like, she went to the DJ. She was like, "You can cut it now." Like,
And
like,
we've photographed those before, and that takes a lot of energy.
oh my
Yeah.
god, we were all like, we were
like
wiped
dying.
after. Yeah,
We're like,
so
party's over, go
We
home.
did like a Hispanic version of that. Like, what was that game called? There was like some.
It's not. It's a tradition.
It's a tradition. It's like a game.
it was
They
fun.
like I don't know
yeah.
what it's called. They hold like a piece of fabric between the two of them,
and then like
they're
dance around the couple on
It's called
chairs.
something.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
sorry that we
Okay.
don't know what it
I'm-
is.
I'm
If
the
someone
I know
worst for
exactly
not
what you're
knowing. I know
talking
what
about,
it
but the
is,
name
but I
is
don't remember what
escaping
it's
me.
called.
it's a
Yeah.
cultural thing. So sorry if someone knows, please put it in the
But
comments.
that lasted a long time too, though.
It did.
So yeah, that lasted way too long. So it was little things like that. It was like the things that like normally as like a planner, I'm always like, okay, cut it after this time. Like this is the time frame, and I just forgot to do it. And then another thing too that I at least do for my couples, which I highly recommend for if anyone's not hiring a planner, it's something they should still do. Is I take my giant like 20 plus page production schedule and pare it down to like a one tiny page pamphlet that I print and hand out to everyone on the rehearsal dinner
Okay.
who's in the wedding party and family. So they,
they
know
know.
exactly where they need to be and when. And they're not
Yeah.
like bombarding them the next day with text messages and be like, where are we supposed to be? What am I supposed to do? Like,
Right.
And I had one made. I just forgot to print them and bring
Whoops.
them. And so, yeah, whoops. But like, so thankfully though, most people weren't too bad. Like being like,
Yeah.
where am I supposed to be?
That's
right
what
now?
you do for our team. Like, we'll get the planner's timeline. It's 3-4 pages long, but
Yeah.
then she'll condense it to just what they need to know.
I'll do that for my vendors too.
Yeah.
So because I know like sometimes like certain vendors, they do need the whole schedule, but certain like for photo video, you guys need to know just photo video.
Yeah, I personally I want the whole shebang,
Same.
but like,
and like a room diagram and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
the
I
whole
want all
thing.
that. You want
then-
both versions.
Yeah, but then like when it comes to like actually like being on the day and like the next thing on the list, and like he needs like a condensed version.
Oh,
and then like I
absolutely.
put like sub notes in there of like certain important facts that he needs to know. But but yeah, okay. Well, I think that this was great.
Yeah,
Any
me
like
too.
anything else that you want to like tell the listeners? You know, any tips or advice, or even just if you want to like chat about your process as a planner, like anything you got.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just for myself and giving advice to couples, it's when you're in your day, especially your day of, I feel like a record box when I tell my couples this, but you need to enjoy it. And I joke, and I've had this like saying since I worked in hotels, it's not a wedding unless 3 things go wrong. And because I think couples, when they're forgetting it, like we're there to plan a party at the end of the day. We're not really planning the wedding, we're planning the party, we're planning the afterwards. And I want my couples to remember like why they're there. And I'm like, you guys need to remember why you're choosing to go through this process. Why are we here?
Right.
Why are you hiring all these people? Why are we inviting them? It's because you two are in love, you're getting married. And it's something very important that I always try to instill in my couples. And also with the follow-up of that being with the, it's not a wedding unless 3 things goes wrong. It's like, you can hire the best people in the world, but people are human.
Yeah.
People make mistakes. Things happen. There's things you also can't control. Like for most of my wedding went great, but here's something I couldn't control. We got home to find out our house flooded on our wedding. So
Dang.
So literally we got back like Sunday from the hotel. We got home and our basement was flooded. So again, not a wedding unless 3 things go wrong.
Not even associated to the wedding.
Yeah, well, I mean, thankfully we found out after the wedding. It wasn't before, because I honestly would have been like, just leave it. Like, but it's one of those mindsets of, we have to remember that, you know, you're there for a reason. Like I always try to remind my couples, like the ceremony, I know you don't want to be standing up there, it's awkward, but like it's truly the most important part of the day, and just to take that moment in. And I also like try to schedule like alone time for my couples too.
That's
like
good.
after the ceremony, like you can hug your people if you want to right away when you get there, but then I'm going to take you guys and put you in a room for like 10 minutes, just like relax and breathe. And have no one else around you, no photo, no video, nothing. Just take the moment in. So those are like the biggest things that I like to instill in my couples, and my biggest advice, because I was very much adamant for myself on having those moments on my wedding day, is like, take the moments to breathe, remember why you're there. If something goes wrong, it's okay. Like it's not the end of the, hopefully, not going to, hopefully it's not the end of the world, but it's not the end
And
of
if
the
you
world.
hire the right teams, you'll never even know something went wrong.
That as well, because
Like a fire.
Yeah, because we've had that before.
the amount of things that we've had to go wrong. My favorite thing that went wrong was it was my very first wedding in my business. It was a Peruvian, the bride was from Peru. They had a lot of Peruvian influence. They had alpacas come. We were at Barnett in Washington, so we were downtown. One of the alpacas escaped. And so there's a great video of me chasing the alpaca
Down
down the streets. Because
hilarious.
my planner brain was like, I'm going to catch this thing. I got to go catch it.
Oh my God.
So
Don't lasso one alpaca.
There goes Lauren.
yeah, there goes Lauren chasing the alpaca.
Down
but-
Washington.
Literally down Washington. So yeah, it's things like that too. Like you tell them after the fact, it's funny after the fact.
Just another day in
is
St.
so
Louis.
funny.
Yeah, literally just another wedding.
Oh
so
my God,
just the
that's so
things
funny.
that, like you said, the right vendor team, they'll take care of it before you know.
Yeah.
We got that alpaca back.
So last question. Do you feel like, you know, as from a marketing standpoint, and I mean this in like the most honest and like integrity way possible, but like, has it been beneficial for you to like have conversations with clients and prospective clients being a bride and planning your wedding? Do you feel like that's really helped?
1000%.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially since I am younger, so I feel like I relate to a lot of my brides more, but when it comes, and I'm the same age as a lot of them, which is weird but fun at the same time. But because of that, it's actually a lot of times in my initial conversation, it's something that I try to bring up, because like, oh, I'm a little nervous, I don't know. I'm like, well, you know, I just got married in August myself, so I know exactly how you're feeling right now.
Yeah.
And it's a really great way for me to bring in that relatability to it. Like
in personal connection.
Exactly. Like I'm able to be like, I was literally just in your shoes. Like I know exactly how you're feeling. I know those stressor points. I know how to work with them and how to deal with it. So it really, I do think it makes a difference in marketing myself and being like, yep, I was just a bride. So I know exactly like what you're going through.
Yeah.
I know exactly how to handle these situations from a bride and personal aspect or professional aspect. I mean,
Yeah. Perfect. I love that. I feel like that was a good wrap up.
It was.
Yeah. Anything else you got, Alex?
I don't think so.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank
Lots
you.
of good information.
Yeah. Thank you, Lauren, for being
Thank
on
you.
here. We super appreciate you. Where can everyone find you?
Yes,
and your
they
business?
can. Yeah, they can find me. All my social media tags are at LZ Event Co. on Instagram and Facebook. If they want to see a little bit more of my personal or planning inspiration shenanigans on TikTok, it's at Lauren Zigman. And then my website is lz-eventco.com.
Perfect.
And those will all be linked, as well as if you are curious to hear all of the things we did wrong in our wedding.
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole podcast episode on this from back in the day when this thing first started. So it looks very different than this.
Yeah.
But if you're curious, I'll link that below too.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, guys, make sure you guys go give her a follow, hit her up. That's it for this one. We really appreciate you being on here. This was so much fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay. All right, guys, we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.